Hello everyone, and welcome to the Music Professor channel. I'm Matthew King. One thing I often don't say, but I'm going to say it today, is please like and subscribe if you like our channel. And if you really like our channel, please consider becoming a patron. There's a link to Patreon below and you can sponsor us to whatever sum of money you want. These things are always welcome. This is a growing channel and we're hoping to do some ambitious things in the future, so we'd really appreciate your support. Today's film is an extension of one that we did recently, so if you haven't seen the first part, do have a look. The details are in the video description below. But we're following the Classic FM Hall of Fame list from 50 to 1, and we've done the first bunch in the last episode. Today is the grand countdown to 1. The Glorious Garden by Debbie Wiseman. I have to admit, I don't know this. Debbie Wiseman has written lots of quite good stuff, hasn't she? What's she written?
I've never heard of that.
Debbie Wiseman's written loads of TV themes. I have to admit, I don't know The Glorious Garden. I'm going to move on. I just don't know it. 1812 Overture at 26. Part of me is a little bit disappointed. Not that it's there, but... Tchaikovsky, what a great composer, but the 1812 Overture is probably his least important piece. I know it's going... I know everyone loves that, but it really isn't the subtlest musical effect. I mean, with all due respect, it's magnificent, and when you've got the cannons, if you've got the cannons, you've got to let them roar, I guess. Bring them out. Fire off some volleys. Ba, 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 the old Tsarist anthem is playing. Yeah, I fully understand its success. But Tchaikovsky, God, he wrote the Pathetique Symphony, for God's sake. Stop listening to the 1812 Overture and listen to some real music. Finlandia, somewhat similar actually. Sibelius, one of my favourite composers. He wrote 7 amazing symphonies. And he started writing an 8th, but never managed to finish it. Every one of his symphonies is kind of a miracle. But the Finlandia, I should say, is this. Brass. Yeah, Finnish nationalism. And there it is, and it's powerful and exciting. Of course, it's a masterpiece, but it's not one of his best pieces. It's an early pot-boiling piece that he wrote early in his career. It defined him in a way. It made him famous in Finland. Completely makes sense to me. I suppose it's his version of Elgar's Pomp and Circumstance marches, that kind of thing. You know, it's a popular piece, not one of his best. Adagio for strings. Well, Samuel Barber's Adagio for strings has become one of these things that gets wheeled out, doesn't it? You got a sad occasion, something terrible happens, wheel out the Adagio for strings. I don't know if he intended it to be that way, you know, that sort of, how does it go, the Adagio? Oh yeah. Yeah. Probably goes up, you know, these lamenting sort of ascending progressions, I can see why they do the job. I think Samuel Barber wrote better pieces. I love his Knoxville. I think that's a masterpiece. Knoxville 1916, I think it's called. Listen to that. Much better than the Adagio for strings. Piano Concerto in A minor by Grieg. Yes, and the great opening theme. Isn't it amazing? I love the Grieg Concerto. I think Grieg's an amazing composer. It's really rhythmic, really quite funky. When I was about 12, I got into the Grieg Piano Concerto and I was really bowled over by these funky Norwegian tunes of his and really, really scrunchy harmonies. What an amazing thing. Yeah, so no quibbles there. I'm happy to see Grieg's Piano Concerto at number 23. It's funny he didn't write any other piano concertos. He very much went down the route, and I fully respect it, of writing kind of small miniature pieces for most of his career. There's a very beautiful violin sonata that I've been playing with my daughter, because she plays the violin rather well. Second violin sonata, marvellous. Okay, Fauré's Requiem is 22. Yeah. Okay, so In Paradisum. think you've heard enough of that. I mean, Fauré, it's lovely, isn't it? It's consoling. There are better pieces by Fauré than the Requiem. His chamber music, his beautiful piano trio, his piano quartets are staggering. But the Requiem is a lovely, soft, gentle Requiem with very nice tunes. Symphony No. 7 of Beethoven's. Why is that there? It's funny to encounter Beethoven in a list like this. He seems a bit bigger than a classic FM list, as do other composers on this list, I should add.
Can I just say, and look what's one above it as well.
The Mission.
I'm not sure you could class it as being better.
I wonder if Beethoven's 7th Symphony is there. It's probably there because it's cool. Let me try again. It's down here, isn't it? It's cellos and basses with this kind of primal rhythm of his. Almost every piece of Schubert's was based on this, same rhythm. So there it is, and the primal rhythm of Beethoven's 7th Symphony. Nobody's going to quibble with Beethoven being in the list, especially when it's as good as the 7th Symphony. What is a bit mysterious is why Morricone's Gabriel's Oboe is in the position above it. It seems a bit weird. Shall I just hear what Gabriel's Oboe is? That's presumably Morricone, isn't it? Okay, I don't really know it, but I'll say something about it. So, Morricone, I mean, I understand. I'm a fan of Morricone. Can I just say that? I think he's an amazing film composer. I don't really know Gabriel's Oboe. Gabriel's Oboe. Someone out there tell me what this is all about. The Mission is a film I have to admit I've not seen. I know that the oboe does this sort of, it's got, I don't know, like sort of Spanish vibe. Morricone, I can't think of a single score of his that isn't impressive. I remember as a teenager being a bit bowled over by his music for The Untouchables, one of those sort of classic 80s action films, and the score to that with this amazing ba-ba-bum, ba-bum. This sort of amazing rhythmic score of his. Fantastic. I think the Morricone I really like is the more rhythmic stuff, but I appreciate I do appreciate his nice lyrical stuff too. Rhapsody in Blue. It's so long since I played it. Okay, so number 19 we've got Rhapsody in Blue, which celebrates its 100th birthday this year, which is rather nice. Always a hit, that piece, from its very first performance in 1924. The clarinet solo was originally not intended to be a glissando. I think he wrote something like that. But the clarinet player glissed it in the rehearsal as a joke. And Gershwin went, yeah, that's what I want. But... Well, all these harmonies and these beautiful melodic patterns and things, it's so effortlessly perfect, isn't it? I know people, including Leonard Bernstein, have complained about the structure of that piece. It's sort of a bit of a potpourri. But it works, doesn't it? It works. Okay, Cello Concerto, Elgar. What is it? Jacqueline Dupre. Yes, well, I love Elgar. And the Cello Concerto is quintessential melancholic Elgar, late in his career, written for, I think his wife had died. And what a beautiful way to write for the cello. And the way that he writes for the orchestra behind the cello is also very expert. It doesn't overpower the lyricism of the cello part. So I'm just talking technically like a composer because that's what I am. But why is it so good? It is. My favourite bit is the slow movement. No one listens to that gorgeous slow movement. But let me tell you something. Elgar is a very great composer, and his symphonies and violin concerto and The Dream of Gerontius, these are all fabulous, and Enigma Variation. So Cello Concerto for me is not a standout piece for him, perfectly marvellous concerto though it is. 17, New World Symphony. Now I think this is because of the famous tune, the Hovis tune, as people often used to call it. But I think there's more to the New World Symphony than that. And actually, I love the first movement. Da, da, ba, ba, or whatever it is. It's probably that. Dvořák was very homesick when he wrote it, and it's full of a sense of melancholy and introspection, actually. and nostalgia for Bohemia, because he wanted to go home. But it's also full of, I think he'd been listening to a lot of African-American spirituals, pieces like that, which would have influenced the kind of pentatonic tunes that you hear in it. It's lovely. So, no complaints there. Four Seasons of Vivaldi, a great piece. I think that some of the more recent performances by Italian groups in particular, and also by our own wonderful British violinist, who I know, called Rachel Podger. Dear Rachel has done a fantastic recording of the Four Seasons. I hope that's the one that's popular, but I think a lot of people are used to the older stuff. But listen to the newer, really exciting recent recordings of that piece. The Clarinet Concerto used in Out of Africa. Do you know, I've never seen Out of Africa. This is Mozart. I love every piece that Mozart wrote, I think, even those silly things he wrote when he was a child. Do I love everything? Maybe not everything, but the Clarinet Concerto is beautiful, one of his last pieces. I think people tend to listen to the middle movement, the famous the lovely melody in the slow movement, but it's all wonderful. The first movement is delicious, the rondo at the end is perfect. But it's no way is it better than all 27 of his piano concertos, or certainly from number 9 to number 27, those piano concertos are fantastic. I mean, let me say something about the Clarinet Concerto. It was Mozart's favourite instrument, and he took to it quite late in his career. I think the Clarinet Concerto was written at the end of his life. He's a very good concerto composer, because concertos are a bit like operas, and so they're always like sort of operas without any opera singers, which is no bad thing. With all due respect, we all love opera singers, really. Violin Concerto number 1 of Max Bruch. I remember loving this piece as a child, and it is a cracker, isn't it? A romantic cracker. But Max Bruch is a minor composer, but he wrote a good violin concerto. So that's number 14. Mozart's Requiem at 13, well, it's amazing, but to be honest with you, the tunes are by Mozart, but much of the Requiem is actually by Süssmayr, who sort of finished it. Because Mozart was literally on his deathbed when he was writing the piece. The first movement is entirely Mozart, but the rest is a bunch of sketches that he managed to jot down because he knew he was dying. Süssmayr had to flesh them out. Well done, Süssmayr. Really ought to be called Mozart Süssmayer's Requiem. Piano Concerto number 2 in F comes in at 12 from Shostakovich, a magnificent piano concerto, but I'm not going to attempt to play it now. I can see that Yuzhao Wang's picture is there on the Classic FM thing, so watch her doing it. Symphony number 6, Pastoral. Yeah. Beethoven rocks that pastoral trope very, very brilliantly in that piece, and isn't it lovely? The countryside is evoked. Do you know the development section of the first movement? That bit where it goes, you've got triplets here. It's wonderful. And then you suddenly get this change of key, superb, and everything happens very kind of slowly. The mechanisms of his harmonic rhythm are very, very slow in that piece. But I must stop waffling on. Schindler's List. Yeah, well, it's very sad. Schindler's List is a film that you don't want to watch more than once, I've always thought. Violin solo, I think, was played by Pinchas Zukerman. I think I'm right. I understand its popularity. Allegri's Miserere. Yes, a classic. Actually, Allegri didn't write that bit. That bit was sort of cobbled in the 19th century by someone else. By mistake, I think a copyist got that bit slightly wrong. They put it in at the wrong transposition, and it's super high and has to be sung by a virtuoso chorister. And it always sounds spectacular, but it's not by Miserere, that bit. Beethoven 9 comes in at 8. Quite low down in the list. I mean, do we love this piece? The Ninth Symphony, is it my favourite Beethoven? No, it really isn't. But, I mean, it's a masterpiece. I'm not denying it. I love the first movement, especially in a quick performance. It has a kind of sternness, solemnity that I think is rather cool. The scherzo's dead funky. The slow movement's rather beautiful. The finale is spectacularly ambitious. Does it work? Stravinsky had interesting things to say about this. He says that Stravinsky lays the whole piece out like a parade ground, but it doesn't work, he says. Well, I think it worked. I think he kind of brings it off by sheer kind of chutzpah. He makes it work, but it's a very, very weird piece. Biggest and strangest set of variations in history, really. But there we are. Number 9. I'm not complaining. It's terrific, really. The Planets. I love The Planets. In a curious way, it's underrated. Certainly in musicological circles. It's not considered a masterpiece in the way that pieces like Debussy's La Mer or Schoenberg's 5 Pieces for Orchestra, which are similar period and had some influence on The Planets. I love The Planets. I think it's a cracking piece. You know, take the last movement, the Mercury with the offstage choir sort of disappearing into the ether. Isn't that a powerfully poetic effect? And really no one else had done it before Holst. Okay, Piano Concerto number 5 of Beethoven, E flat major. Yeah, well, it's Beethoven at his most imperious. What more is there to say? I know that contemporaries who heard it said it simply doesn't make sense. I think Louis Spohr said there's no way of following the form, it rambles around, it's disastrous. But actually, no, it's quite good. I wonder if it's popular because of the beautiful slow movement, the da, 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 one of Beethoven's noble melodies. Very good at noble melodies, Beethoven. We got Carl Jenkins as the armed man at 5. Actually, to be honest with you, I can't play it because I can't remember how it goes. Carl Jenkins. Fine, okay. Enigma Variations of Elgar. Well, I've mentioned this. It's because of Nimrod, isn't it? The sort of quintessential... So, Elgar. He's just a genius. What a great composer. But do you know, the very thing that is the quintessence of Englishness, and this was used by Christopher Nolan rather powerfully in Dunkirk, where the music of Nimrod comes sort of shimmering in with the evacuation fleet. And, you know, every English heart is tugged at that moment. Not just English hearts. Anyone watching the film is moved by that moment. But actually, Elgar didn't view it as an English piece at all. He wrote Nimrod, which is only one of a whole bunch of variations. You know, it's number whatever it is. I can't even remember which variation it is now. But he was challenged by his friend Jaeger. Jaeger means hunter, and Nimrod is a hunter in the Old Testament. That's why it's called Nimrod. And his friend Jaeger said, he's a critic, said to Elgar, is it possible to write a slow movement as good as Beethoven's? And Elgar took up that challenge. So the Nimrod variation is a response to Beethoven. It's not an attempt to evoke Englishness. Fantasia on a theme, on the subject of evoking Englishness, Fantasia on a theme of Thomas Tallis is coming in at 3. How does it go? And it keeps going back to the minor, doesn't it? So the melody there comes from a hymn by Thomas Tallis, and the original hymn is much more austere. Dear old Vaughan Williams romanticises it like hell, really. But it's another of these lovely, evocative English pieces from the 1910s, and we all love Vaughan Williams. But I like so many pieces in this list. I think there are greater pieces of Vaughan Williams. I think his symphonies are cracking pieces. You know, the Fifth Symphony, it's better than the Fantasia, actually. Quite a lot better. He gets leaner and more exciting in his late music. And that amazing Sixth Symphony, the first movement, check that out. That's fabulous. And in that, there's a tune that's a bit, you know, it's like a quintessential Vaughan Williams English tune that emerges out of wreckage at the end of the first movement. It's so exciting and somehow poignant. It was written in the Second World War. Anyway, Vaughan Williams. And then we got the Lark Ascending. Everyone knows that, I don't need to play it. Again, Vaughan Williams' symphonies are much better. The Lark Ascending is of course beautiful. I love skylarks, by the way, and many of them are singing in the field behind my house. So I'm very lucky to have real larks ascending, and I prefer real skylarks to Vaughan Williams' evocation. I'm sorry to say it. I love Vaughan Williams, but the violin, yeah, it's great. It's very pretty. It's very pretty. And then, at number 1, Well, has anyone ever written a better opening to a concerto than this? These sort of mysterious, stark, strange chords in a very mysterious and wonderfully Russian romantic context. How can I explain the beginning? It's just an enigma. And what a great piece! Piano Concerto No. 2 of Rachmaninoff's is a categorical masterpiece. There's an interesting story here, which is that his first symphony, which was premiered almost exactly 100 years ago, was a disastrous failure. And he stopped composing for 3 years until he went to see a hypnotherapist called Dr. Dahl. And as a result of his therapy, he managed to start composing the piano concerto. And Dahl got him to say, in the therapy sessions, my new piano concerto will flow like water, something like that. It will be a fine piece. And he kept saying it to himself, and then he wrote it, and it was. Well, of course, there's much more to writing a masterpiece than just telling yourself you're going to write a masterpiece. But I think the therapy at least unleashed his astonishing technical skills that he already had. You know, he was a very, very brilliant musician. Rachmaninoff was a sort of an incomparable musician. He was equally a master composer and pianist. Not many people are both to a prodigious degree. You know, one of the world's great pianists, but also a very great composer. The piano concerto sort of amalgamates those two things, and what can I say? It's not better than the first or third, or indeed fourth concertos. They're all superb. And there's the list. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, and enjoy listening to an even bigger repertoire of pieces. I think the list, Classic FM list, is fine, but every one of those pieces, I think I could name another piece by those composers that's even more interesting. Thank you for listening.